So when you think about the Middle Ages, right, the whole political stage, it just seems completely dominated by men. Kings, dukes, warlords.
It does. But right there in the middle of it all, you have this incredible figure, Eleanor of Aquitaine. She wasn't just observing. She was maneuvering, fighting, and a lot of the time pulling the strings.
And she wasn't just any queen. First, she was Queen of France, and then she became Queen of England.
That's the core of it, isn't it? Her life, it spanned 82 years, which is just monumental for the 12th century. And every single decade was packed with politics, ambition, war, just so much drama.
So today we're going to unpack how she managed it all, how she gained all this power, then lost it, and then somehow got it all back.
Let's do it. And to understand her, you really have to start with where her power came from in the first place.
Okay, so she was born around 1122 in what we'd now call the southwest of France. Her father was William X, the Duke of Aquitaine.
Right. And you have to understand, Aquitaine wasn't just some small duchy. It was incredibly wealthy, culturally vibrant, and powerful.
And her upbringing was key to all of this. She got an education that was, well, almost unheard of for a woman back then.
Absolutely. This wasn't just learning to sew. She learned to read and write in Latin. That's the language of law, of government. She studied music, literature.
But she also learned practical skills, right? Like riding horses, hunting.
Exactly. She was trained to be a ruler, not just someone's wife.
And then fate just steps in. In 1137, she's barely 15 years old, and her father dies, just suddenly.
And just like that, she inherits everything. She becomes the Duchess of Aquitaine. Instantly, she's the most eligible bride in all of Europe.
Maybe the most powerful single woman in Europe.
Without a doubt. And this is the part that's so hard to grasp. The lands she now controlled were huge. They were actually larger than the lands the King of France himself controlled.
So she was a major power player from day one, an independent force.
Which is why she was immediately married off to Prince Louis, who very quickly became King Louis VII of France. The idea was to bring all that wealth and land under the French crown.
A merger, basically.
In theory. But you're merging two completely different worlds. Eleanor's home court in Aquitaine was sunny, intellectual, full of poets.
And Louis' court in Paris?
Cold, strict, very religious and austere. It was a huge culture shock for her.
I can imagine. She was known for being witty and sharp, and he was. Well, he was very devout. A little bit dull, maybe.
That's one way to put it. Their personalities clashed badly. But the real problem, the political problem, was that after 15 years, they only had 2 daughters.
No son. No male heir for the French throne.
Exactly. And the relationship had completely broken down by then, especially after this disastrous military campaign they went on together.
You're talking about the Second Crusade in 1147.
I am. And this is a perfect example of her asserting her power. Queens did not just go on crusades.
But she insisted. And she didn't just go along for the ride, did she?
Not at all. She insisted on leading her own soldiers from Aquitaine. She saw it as her duty as their feudal lord. It was a massive statement of her own authority.
But the whole trip was a mess.
A total disaster. She and Louis argued constantly about military strategy, about politics. He was there for religious reasons, for pilgrimage. She was thinking about alliances, about power moves, especially when they visited her uncle in Antioch.
It all just fell apart.
It did. The crusade failed, and the rift between them was so bad they came home on separate ships. The whole of Europe could see the marriage was over.
So back in France, they needed a way out.
And the lack of a male heir gave them one. They didn't get a divorce in the modern sense. The marriage was annulled, officially, because they were supposedly too closely related.
A convenient excuse.
A very convenient excuse. The real reason was political. The union hadn't produced a king, and they couldn't stand each other. So in 1152, she was free.
And once again, the most eligible woman in Europe, with all that land still under her control.
And she moved incredibly fast. Just 8 weeks after the annulment, Eleanor marries Henry of Anjou.
8 weeks? That's an astonishing political rebound.
It really is. Henry was younger than her, ambitious, energetic, with a famous temper. They were a much better match in terms of intensity.
It was a huge power move for both of them.
A massive one. She secures a powerful ally to protect her lands, and he instantly gets control of all of Aquitaine.
And then things get even bigger. 2 years later, in 1154, this same Henry becomes King Henry II of England.
And that's the moment the Angevin Empire is born. Suddenly, the King of England controls this enormous chunk of France, from the English Channel all the way down to Spain. It completely upended the balance of power in Europe.
Which, of course, created this permanent state of tension with the King of France.
Permanent conflict, really. And unlike her first marriage, this one was dynastically very successful. They had 8 children, 5 sons.
Including future kings like Richard the Lionheart and John.
Exactly. It cemented their power on both sides of the channel.
Now, we often think of medieval queens as just being there, standing next to the king, but that was not Eleanor.
Not at all. She was deeply involved in the actual running of the government. Henry was always away fighting or traveling, so he would leave her in charge
In charge of what, specifically?
of England itself, or Normandy. She was issuing orders, managing finances, handling legal matters. He clearly trusted her judgment and her skills completely.
So she was a co-ruler in many ways.
A co-administrator, for sure. And her influence wasn't just political, it was cultural. She was a huge patron of the arts, especially poets and musicians.
And this is where the whole idea of courtly love comes in.
Right, exactly. She popularized it. This new code of romance and chivalry, expressed through poetry and songs, it really changed the culture of the aristocracy. It made her court the place to be in Europe.
So she's at the height of her power, she has all these sons, she's influencing culture, but then the whole family just, it implodes.
It really does. In 1173, 3 of their sons, Henry the Young King, Richard, and Geoffrey, launched a full-scale rebellion against their own father.
Why? What were they after?
Power. They wanted to actually rule the lands they had been promised.
And Eleanor's role in this is shocking.
It's stunning. She chose a side. She supported her sons against her husband. She might have been trying to protect Aquitaine's independence from Henry's control, but whatever the reason, it was treason.
Open rebellion against the king.
Yes. Henry, who was a brilliant general, crushed the revolt, and he was, as you can imagine, absolutely furious with Eleanor.
So what was her punishment?
He couldn't really execute her, but he did the next best thing, politically. He put her under house arrest
For how long?
for 16 years.
16? That is an unbelievable amount of time to be locked away.
A huge part of her life.
Yeah.
Her 50s, her 60s, gone. She was treated like a queen. You know, she had nice clothes and servants, but she was guarded, isolated, cut off from power completely.
He kept her politically dead.
That was the goal.
Hmm.
But she outlasted him. In 1189, Henry II died, and their son, Richard the Lionheart, became king.
And his first move.
His very first act as king was to order her release. And Eleanor, now almost 70 years old, doesn't retire. She walks right back into the center of power.
As the queen mother.
And as Richard's most trusted advisor, he basically made her his regent in England because he had no intention of sticking around.
Right, he was off to the Third Crusade.
He was. So for years, Eleanor was effectively ruling England. She traveled the country, securing loyalty for the new king, managing the government, keeping everything stable.
Which couldn't have been easy, especially with her youngest son, John, trying to cause trouble.
John was a constant threat. He tried to seize the throne more than once while Richard was away. Eleanor had to use all of her diplomatic skill and political will to keep the nobles in line and stop a civil war.
And then came the ultimate test. Richard gets captured on his way home from the crusade.
Yes, captured and held for an enormous ransom, a truly crippling amount of money.
And Eleanor took charge.
She organized the entire effort, a massive kingdom-wide tax to raise the money. And then at 72, she personally travels to Germany to deliver the ransom and bring her son home.
That's just incredible. The dedication, the sheer logistical skill.
She really was unstoppable. Even after Richard died in 1199, she kept going. She was 77, and she worked to make sure John secured the throne.
She was still traveling for politics in her late 70s.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
She took a major trip over the Pyrenees into Spain to arrange a political marriage for one of her granddaughters.
And she was even in a battle, wasn't she? Late in her life.
In her early 80s, she was besieged in a castle by her own grandson, Arthur of Brittany, and she led the defense until John's army arrived to rescue her. She never stopped fighting for her family and her lands.
She finally died in 1204 at around 82 years old. She's buried at Fontevraud Abbey.
Right next to Henry and Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And her tomb, the sculpture on it, tells you everything you need to know about her.
How so?
Most queens were carved in stone with their hands clasped in prayer. It was the traditional pious image.
But not Eleanor's.
Not Eleanor's. Her effigy shows her lying down and reading a book.
It's a statement about her entire life. Her power came from her intellect, from her learning, not just from piety or marriage.
Exactly. She was this incredible symbol of female power in an age that was built to deny it. Queen of two nations, mother and grandmother to most of the royalty in Europe. She literally shaped the map,
She showed that even after betrayal, public scandal, and 16 years in prison, a sharp mind and political will can bring you back from anything and leave a permanent mark on history.
The question that historians still debate is, who was she really fighting for? France? England? Or was it always for her homeland, for Aquitaine? That's a real puzzle she leaves us with.
Good luck with your studies.